What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another deck profile here on the channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Reiner Braun Warrior list that I took to a 3-0 finish at this past week's Webcam Wednesday. This deck is an absolute blast. One of my favorite characters from inside of AOT Set 3. I really wanted to showcase this, and I really like this specific version, and I'm excited to keep changing and iterating on it. Let's do a quick breakdown on Reiner. So Reiner is a 6-hand size 17 health character. We'll get there, I promise. Who says, enhance mill the top 4 cards of your deck. You get a damage for each different card type milled this way. So if they're all the same card type, you get 1 damage if you mill 4 foundations. And if they're all different card types, you get 4 damage. So depending on what it is. And so we are playing a bit of a rainbow deck. We have every single card type outside of characters represented inside of our decks. Actions, assets, backups, attacks, foundations. And then he also says, if you cycled this game, instead of just giving damage equal to it, you also now get speed equal to it. So sometimes, you're getting symmetrical stats. I'll give it +3/+3. If I hit the jackpot, I get +4/+4 to my move, which is very good. Giving +4/+4 to a stat, that's a very strong thing to do. And then lastly, he's got this ability that says, if the first time that he would die, we're going to transform him into the Armored Titan. The Armored Titan advancing. Another 6-hand size, 17 health. And it says, remove 3 cards from my discard pile, which, we found because we're milling a bunch. Remove 3 cards from my discard pile. This deck gets +1 speed and +1 damage, guaranteed, for each different card type in my stage, and that does include the character. So character, foundation, asset, backup. If I have all 4, I'm getting 4/4 to every move by removing 3 cards out of my discard pile. A thing that doesn't necessarily matter anymore. And then it says, if you cycled, you can take a card from your momentum and put it up into your hand. And the very last thing that this character says is, the first attack on each of your opponent's turns has -5 damage. And so, truthfully, this 17 health character that turns into a 17th health character, so 24 essentially, is not actually that. He is significantly harder to kill, and we will explain why. So I'm sure I'm going to be referencing Reiner a lot here later, but we'll just move on from there. So this deck is under Chaos, and the #1 reason to play this deck under Chaos is exclusively Fast Hybrid Chimera Kraken. As our first attack, this card is just crazy. It's a 4 high for 6, 4 high for minimum 7, sometimes 4 high for 10 inside of Reiner that says selectively commit and freeze the best piece on their board, and it also is asset hate, which can be very debilitating for this character because, I'll explain it a bit. This is a staple. It is one of the reasons to play the Chaos symbol. It is the sole reason that I've decided to play Chaos instead of Fire, is because of Chimera Kraken. Onto the spice, and the reason I think this deck is so explosive is Lethal Slash. It is a 3 high for 4, sometimes 3 high for 5, 3 high for 8, that draws you a bonus card, and then if it's the second card you've played, which is important, you then get to remove it after it resolves. So it replaces itself, it gets a bunch of damage from Reiner on either side, right, plus X+X, and then it can leave after it's done. It's also got this really gnarly 1 mid-block, which feels good. It's just an all-around great card. And then the last major attack that we have is just for Besieged. 3 diff that says that it's annoying to 3 diff that says it's annoying to block. You combine that with giving it a bunch of extra stats. In Deadlock, it is the normal way that you kill people. It just starts as an 8 damage move, 9 damage move with Reiner, sometimes 12. Hey, I've got 2 of these and you're at 24. I just killed you and you've got a full hand. You just literally can't block it. This card is crazy. Again, another nutso 1 mid block. So this is it for and I'll call this the Fury package inside of the deck. And you'll see why Furies matter here in just a little bit. But remember, these are the Furies, and then the rest of these are non-Furies, asterisks. We've got Attack Titan's Haymaker at a 1 of. I would be playing 2, if not 3 of these if I owned them. I only owned 1, so I had to replace it with the next 2 cards. But the next 2 cards are not bad if you don't have Haymaker, and so I just want to talk about that. It's a stun move that also shifts into Aaron's Determination, which is a foundation, and Determination says mill, your move gets my attack gets +1 damage unless I'm at 10 or less health, which is very easy to do with my 17 health character, in which case it gets 2. And the thing is Reiner wants to mill on every single attack that is played inside the game, as long as we think that we'll have some amount of resources inside of our discard pile. Because once we transform, we need the resources in our discard pile to do the thing, and we want to cycle in order to get the speed on this side and the attack looping by taking your momentum and putting it back in your hand on this side. And so on every attack that is played, mine or yours, with this combo, I can mill 5 cards. 5 cards you get to put into the discard pile, which is why the deck is allowed to be like a little thicker than 60. The other big thing about Attack Titan's Haymaker is it is kind of Besiege-esque. Besiege can only be blocked by specific cards, and Attack Titan's Haymaker can only be blocked by specific cards. Again, I would play more of these if I had them. I just don't. And so to replace it, we're playing a singular defeating the Colossus Titan. This card is dope. This card is such a sick one-of that I think that I would be... This is not in my original list. This is a change that I have made for today, and I absolutely am going to keep this in at a one-of. It's a 6 high for 6, 6 high for 10 sometimes with Reiner, that says lose X health, X cannot be greater than 5, and then if you have less than half of your printed maximum health, you get +4 damage. So it's for 10, sometimes 14, and it's got powerful 3. It just it's nuts, and it's also a Fury, which matters for later. And then my last one of this replacement is Gigantification Swing. This card was fine today. It did the bottom or the top enhance did come into play at one point today, but truly it was not that big of a deal. The response is really what we're playing it for. It's a 2 high block with essentially Breaker 2 on both offense and defense. It feels great here. Onto the non-Fury attacks. We're playing triple Freezer Burn. It's a 4 low for 4 that lets us re-ready our foundations. Because we're playing a rainbow deck, our foundations are really important. Our foundations are really, really important to make sure that we have up and ready. And so even if it's just like they readied my face down, that's good enough because I'm going to be playing as many as I can, and I am running 4 2-checks in my deck. And so it's very possible that on your kill turn, you check a singular 2, commit 3 bonus resources that you weren't expecting to commit, and go, how do I recover? The answer is Freezer Burn is how you recover. Combining that with it's weirdly off zone, right? I think it's the first low that we have had at all inside of our list. So as they hold their mids and their highs, it's weirdly off zone. Wears Reiner really well. Feels great. Up next, we've got Double Frog Strike. This card is really growing on me in Chaos lists. It's just Vast Hybrid Light. It's a 4 diff, 4 mid for 4 with a 2 mid block with stun 1, so it commits 1. And it also says flip and seal a foundation, which is not quite as good as commit and freeze. I get that, but it does say that like you do get the first interaction of, hey, I don't want you to necessarily mess with that piece. I'm going to seal that, and then you can stun it later or whatnot. But it also gets accidentally big by discarding a card out of your hand for like +3 damage, which is a thing that my deck wants to do. And then lastly, Deadlock Enhance, ready 3 foundations. So it's Freezer Burn as well. Easily could play more Frog Strikes if you can't afford Krakens. But this card is just crazy good. Like it's very good. I don't think that you have to play more than the 2 of, but I really liked the 2 of. And then the last attack, the one that I was experimenting with today, is just Annie's Leg Sweep. I was just honestly looking for a 4 diff throw. There are some pretty good synergies with if I play a throw that is pretty good, such as Reiner wants to go pick up moves. So like playing Annie's Leg Sweep and then slamming it in momentum. Whenever I use Reiner, if I've cycled, I'll pick back up my throw. And this accidentally gets big, right? Like giving this 4 damage says that like it's a 5 damage move guarantees. And so like it is very similarly shaped to what Besieged and Haymaker has got going on, because it's like this these are pseudo guarantee damage. This is guarantee damage unless they have a specific throw out, which, I mean, it happens, but like It is fewer and far between. And it also, like, the deadlock is not terrible. It's another off zone, right? If they hold a bunch of highs, then it doesn't matter this is a 0-speed move because, you know, it's a low. This card felt good. I don't think that I would be replacing it with something like a cat claw grab, because I think the deadlock is actually pretty decent. And that's it. There is the attack lineup. Again, some small changes I would make to the attack lineup. Just the number one thing is Gigantification Swing, swapping it into another Attack Titan's Haymaker, or hell, you could even make it like another Frog Strike, and I would probably be just as happy. But it was fine, or another Defeating the Colossus Titan if you really wanted to. It was fine. Oh, the last thing I want to talk about with this one is this card says burn health, so it can force you to transform if you want it. Because you can kill yourself on your front side in order to transform. You know, bite your hand. On to the rest of the rainbow. The first and most important action inside of this deck, and the main reason I wanted to play this character at all, is just Wound Restore. This card turns a character like this and makes them from being good to make them being annoying. I'm already a 17 health character that, like, you actively have 2 phases, and I level up in order to get there. And as much time as I can spend on the front being my weaker side, there's some debate there, the better. And so, like, this says I have 20 extra health. This says I'm a 37 health character on the front side and then a 17 health character on the back side. Combining that with its other ability that says after my attack deals damage, I burn them for 4. Wearing this on things like Annie's Leg Sweep, wearing this on Freezer Burn, where there's no, like, interaction, Attack Titan's Haymaker, or Besieged, all of these just wear random wound restore so incredibly well that it is real punishment for them to try and try and deal with the extra burn, right? These are essentially 4 extra attacks in my deck that, like, burn them for 4 that also check a 4. It's great. It's very, very good. And also, it's a blue card for whenever I mill with Reiner. Hey, this wasn't a foundation or an attack. My last action that I'm playing is just a singular Genkai's. I don't think that you would play more than one of it. This honestly could be cut if you want the room. I like the panic button of, hey, you have just a little bit more that you have to, especially on the backside. You have a little bit more. You need to get that one more move that you got to kill me with. I will Genkai's and be good. But the big thing here is that our stage is really precious to us because of how much of a rainbow that we have. Like, we're already 5 actions in, and we haven't even talked about assets or backups. Because of that, having cards on our stage is like, it's tough. We want to keep the cards on our stage, and so blowing up 3 is a bit of a high price. Could be replaced with something like a runaway if we really wanted to. On to the assets. The most important asset is just Soup. This card is Wound Restore's little brother. After I play it, I build it, and that is on block or otherwise. But most importantly, it's a green card to mill with Reiner or to sit on my stage with Titan advancing. And it also says commit for 1 damage and then gain a health. So when I partial block something and I take 2 and I've got double Soup on the board, I actually didn't partial block it. I full blocked it, and I gave my move a bunch of extra stats. And so, like, this card just, like, makes math really weird in the same way that Wound Restore does, of, like, hey, here's plus damage, here's gain health, and just, like pushing that goalpost a little bit further and further and further away. Speaking of, probably the other, if Chimera Kraken was not a good enough reason to play the Chaos symbol, then Knott's Flask is just the second reason. This card, the amount of damage reduction and / or damage increase that this card has is criminal, as well as it does the thing that we want to do, which is mill cards off the top of our deck so we can get to the cycle so that whenever I transform, I'm going bananas. This card combined with this card is pretty much all of the defense that you need, and it's all in the shape of damage reduction. You combine any amount of damage reduction on attacks that you can't block or don't want to block with the blocking that you could be doing. This character feels all but unkillable. He's very, very hard to kill. And we also have the added thing of when it comes to Knott's Flask that we are milling more cards, and as long as they're not attack cards, it is increasing our boost counters to just keep doing it over and over again. Our last rainbowed card, and then we'll get into our foundations, is Grisha's Attack Titan. Did you know this card's not unique? Did you know that we're allowed to have 3 of these on the board at once? And then that means that at any time that I have a Grisha's on board, I'm allowed to go pick up any of these. Are you a Fury? You're technically a Fury. So all of these are now on the docket. Grisha's Attack Titan is extra copies of Vast Hybrid on the turn that they have an asset and we care about it. Grisha's Attack Titan is extra copies of Lethal Slash to wear out their hand in order to and draw in bonus cards in order to try and have a little bit extend your reach. Grisha's Attack Titan is a besiege that they can't block. Grisha's Attack Titan is also sitting on the board as a bonus resource, as a bonus card type that gives me +X/+X. Grisha's Attack Titan is a different card type that when milled, I get an extra damage. This card feels great. It's got a solid 1 low block. And the most important thing about it is it's got 6 stamina, which is a ton. Like, it's hard to kill. And it doesn't pay stamina to do the thing. It just sacrifices itself. So it goes back into my deck, and then I can draw it and play it again. Like, I'm just allowed to, like, be a little liberal with my activations as long as it gets the value out of it. This card is great. Oh, and the other thing is it's a backup, which means if they're attacking me, that means that they're not if they're attacking Grisha's, they're not attacking me, which means that I get to live, which means I get to mill. Combining that with the amount of damage reduction that we have via Knott's Flask, sometimes they have to swing, 13 damage or 12 damage in order to kill this thing if I've got double Knott's Flask and I want to save it. It's very, very strong. And so, as you can see, a lot of our deck is not foundations, which is probably the biggest hindrance in the deck. Is there's a lot of cards that just aren't doing the foundation job. And so from here, when we take and we look at the foundations, there's not actually a lot. It's actually, there's more non-foundations than there are foundations. And so as we take a look at it, our aggro foundations, we've got triple sacrifice for the cause. This is discard a card out of our hand in order to give extra stats, and it cancels damage reduction. So if they try to put my thing back to printed or airy or whatever, sacrifice for the cause is allowed to cancel it. This card is so good. This card is so good. It is worth me playing 3 of it with my Lethal Slash existing. Like its ability to cancel and be like a damage pump on turn 2 is like so strong. Up next we've got 4 basic training, my main deadlock threat outside of like the attack cards. It's speed, it's damage. It's just all around. It's a staple. It's a 0 diff with a 2 mid block, which is good in my Lethal Slash deck. Followed by Easily Excited as my other symmetrical stat pump card. If basic training is the damage, then this is the speed. This card is probably better than what basic training's got going on outside of the idea of the deadlock, just because our character on the front side gives damage, and this can give us, even just the 2 speed to make blocking my first Chimera Kraken a little more annoying. Sometimes could be the difference. That's it for the aggro stuff, because my deck kind of spews damage, but I am a 6 hand size character, and so I have to fix that with Grisha's, as well as I've got 4 long range support. This card is very, very cool. It is one of the cards that I'm infatuated with in Attack on Titan 2. In this deck in particular, it does not need to be a 4 of. It probably could be a 2 of and be fine. This card just says, after I hit you, I draw a card, discard a card, which is super relevant when I am playing things like this suite here and the Attack Titans Haymaker. Hey, these ones are kind of difficult to interact with to let me redraw. But most importantly, it also says, after your attack deals damage, I can draw a card and then discard a card. And so it lets me sculpt a little better. And it also is technically, I mill 1 because a card leaves to the top of my top of my deck and then goes into my discard pile. Even if it, makes a trip to my hand in the middle. Up next, we've got 4 Horrifying Realization. Again, it's just more draw than discard. But this one has the added caveat of it's a form. I'm allowed to play more than one of them at the time, right? I have control over it rather than there's a little bit of agency on my rival. And then Horrifying says if they discarded a foundation, they commit 1. Our last flow card is just Chivalrous Competitor. It says flip. Both players draw a card. The main point of this was actually just a little bit of disruption, truthfully, of just like I'm trying to protect my sacrifice for the cause to make sure that it doesn't get flipped, because this is, once your hand is down, I discard the non-attack cards in my hand and I make the last moves very, very strong. This card probably doesn't need to be in here. It probably could be some sort of disruption, actual disruption piece. Maybe it's dropped down to a 2 of. I mean, there's some wiggle room here, I think. Up next, the worst card in my deck by far, Capture the Target. I keep ticking this down and down and down, and it is just a bad. It's just a bad player. If I'm having to use this card, I probably would have rather it just been a freezer burn instead of like this is the activation I wanted to use it on. And I also have this one at Deadlock, but because of the fact that I'm playing Lethal Slash and it removes, and I'm trying to not play a singular Lethal Slash on the turn, I want to play like 2 or 3. The bad checks that this card fixes actually doesn't, because I only ever have 2 cards in my card pool. So I play an attack, I play the Lethal Slash, and then it leaves, and I still only have 2. I play another Lethal Slash, I check pour again, I commit it even more, and I go, well, in order for me to get value out of my Capture the Target, I have to play 2 more attacks, succeed those, in order to re-ready. It's just too high of a risk. And so this card probably should just be something else that exists, some other sort of disruption of like a, it should be something. It should be something, but yeah, that one's bad. I'm trying to take it out. And then my last one, my only real defense foundation-wise, is just for Fast Friendship. This card just says flip for minus speed. But again, our main defense here is not going to be that, but it's actually going to be Flask and all of this damage reduction. But sometimes, hey, you got to block things. Sometimes blocking is important. And so Fast Friendship is the way to go. With that said, thank you much for watching this here deck profile. Again, this character is super, super fun. I am having a blast with him, and he's one of the characters that like I keep just wanting to play over and over and over again, without experimenting on other things. He's just really, really fun to play as a 6-hand size milling character. So with that said, you guys, thank you much for watching the video. Make sure you check out the entire event that I played over on the YouTube channel. And with that, I wish you well.